So there is apparently a rumor going around about Potomac, specifically whether or not Dr. Wendy Osefo stopped filming after Gizelle Bryant caught her in a lie. Okay, so we're gonna get into that, and then we're gonna talk about Belle Collective Birmingham. So if you came for the Birmingham, stay tuned. We're gonna get to that in just 1 second. But first, Scott Squad, we gotta talk about this. Because I think that there's a bigger question that I do want to ask you, and I want your opinion on. So stick around, okay? So, shout out to our friends over at Reality Blurb who picked up this story from the Marcy Cosby fan on X. And I don't know if that was supposed to be Mary Cosby fan or Marcy Cosby fan. Regardless, it says this story, okay, it was alleged. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that, right? It's alleged and should be taken with a grain of salt. But again, there is a bigger question that I want to ask. Okay. So allegedly, Wendy Osefo has taken a break from filming after Giselle caught her in a lie about her case. Sources tell me that Wendy will be back to filming Real Housewives of Potomac. Now, one of the things that was also posted in this article was that Mr. Housewives, who is also a source that we frequently cite here on the channel, and also has his own podcast called The Comment Section, also reposted this and stated that this could hurt her case. Because the thought was, he thought it was stupid for Wendy to even film because it could hurt her case. So then an insider exclusively spilled to Reality Blurb that the information is completely false. The person says it's not true. Wendy is still filming. None of that is true. So then another source doubled down, insisting the cameras are definitely rolling and Wendy is a part of the action. Of course, it's been confirmed that Monique Samuels, who was at first not expected to return, has also come back and is filming again, as well as Robin Dixon, who will be joining Giselle, Wendy, Tia, Ashley Darby, and Karen Huger, as has also been confirmed by Bravo TV. Okay, so all of that aside, rumors aside, okay, rumors aside, and listen, at the end of the day, it could have been that Wendy maybe had a moment in her case or in the preparation for her case that she needed a couple of days off. I mean, there could have been some of that at play. In terms of whether or not Giselle caught her in a lie or not, we don't know, but what we do know is that we had reported that they had unfollowed each other. So something definitely has likely gone down with Wendy and Giselle, and maybe there was some alleged lying that was a part of it. Now, on whose part, we don't know. What we do know is that Wendy is filming. So the bigger question that I ask you, since it has come up, is it smart for Wendy to film? That is the question. So, with Real Housewives of Potomac being a reality TV show that is based on the reality that the ladies are currently existing in, it would stand to reason that a big part of Wendy's story is going to be her case, preparing for her case. And while I'm sure that her attorneys, have advised her not to really speak in depth about the case specifically, there have already been aspects of it that she's spoken about at the reunion, and I wonder if any of those things will come up. Because as we know, these shows tend to get a little bit messy, and if someone perhaps is parsing together details about the case that could potentially prove something that Wendy has previously said to be false, then I wonder how that's going to play out on the show. Will Bravo be judicious in terms of how they edit this these discussions? I really don't know. And again, my question that I'm asking you is, do you think it's even smart? For any of you guys who might be attorneys or practicing attorneys, lawyers, um, you know, with the credentials, uh, and not just me who has my law and order SVU university degree, right? But I would really love to know what your thoughts are about Dr. Wendy actually participating in this season. We know that Jen Shaw did the same thing when she had her case. These are two different cases, so I'm not saying that they are one and the same. We know that Karen also filmed in the lead up to her case as well. So there is a precedence that is being set for housewives to film with active law, um, active cases in the works. But what do you think? Because I feel like the situation is so, I don't know. I just I do question it, but I do understand that there is probably also the need to continue to work. So I'm not saying that Housewives is an easy gig by any stretch of the imagination, but I am saying that there is probably not going to be an occupation out there where you can be paid to go and have drinks, go on trips, travel, this, that, and the third. And then can she travel? Will this also impact their trips? Can she travel throughout the continental United States? And can she travel internationally? Would that mean that they won't be able to travel internationally or that she just won't participate if they do? Because at this point, they do have 6 full-time wives and then 2 super friends. So what are the implications overall? That's really what I'm interested in. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. All right, so now let's talk Belle Collective Birmingham. We're on season 1, episode 6. I can't believe it's been 6 weeks already that this show has been on. That's crazy to me. It's called Nightmare on Estate Street. A dreamy girl's day at Stormi's estate turns into a nightmare for one woman. Fumi tours a potential new home with Sam, but something feels off. Caught in the middle, Amber hits a breaking point, and Tiffaney and K'la face off again. All right, so I was wondering how many episodes the show would get. I was thinking it would be between 6 to 8, and so it seems like 7 is going to be the sweet spot, and they'll probably have a 1 episode reunion, so it'll probably be a total of 8. I like it. It makes sense for a first season, so we can really see how things go. And I have a real question for y'all. And I want you to really think about this. This just occurred to me, but it was based on an article that I had seen posted by Crystal Jordan. And the there's a piece of the article that is asking the question, is it possible, like what does friendship look like for the rich friend? And what I want to know from you is, in your social circle, are you the rich friend? Are you the friend that has it all? Or do you know the friend that has it all? What position do you are you placed in within the friend group to the friend that has it all? And then when something goes wrong with the friend who has it all, what does that mean for you? Or if you are the friend that has it all, what does that mean for the friendship group? And is your perception that the friend who has it all, is your perception of them that they are mostly concerned about their money, their power, their wealth? That's a question that comes up in this episode because when Tiffaney is kicked out of Stormi's home, Tiffany has and her husband both seem to position Stormi as the person who has the most power in this dynamic or thinks that she has the most power because of her wealth. And so this situation then escalates from the mops, what's funny and what's not funny, into a whole different conversation about what it is like for Stormi and in Stormi's experience to have to fraternize with maybe those who don't have as much wealth as she does, thus, as Tiffany states, makes her poor. Okay? That's what I want to know because I did think that here's the reality of this situation. Belle Collective Birmingham is centered around Stormi. There's no question about that. It- for me, I would also wonder if that also made this show really, really right for being greenlit in the first place. And I would probably say yes. It is probably due to Stormi that this show got greenlit. I don't think that there's any. I would have no illusions about that. And here's the reason why. I'm going to tell you something that I've learned from pitching television shows and reality TV shows over the past few years. Now, I don't have my show on the air yet, but this is what I've learned. And I've also learned this in my screenwriting mentorship, for which I was in for about 2 years. And I would still be in it, but life happened and my dad got sick. And so I just, honestly, there was only so much that I could really do and handle at that point. And last year, y'all know, I was struggling in so many ways, right? I'm a bit better this year, but I just couldn't take on another thing. And so I just had to pause. But one of the things that I did learn in that process is that networks, production companies, they are now really, really invested in shows that have a name attached to it. So unless it's like a competition show for which they love right now, then if it's a reality TV show, they kind of want a name. They want a name associated with it. So me seeing this, it was really no surprise and it made total sense to me. With that being said, I'm sure that there's an interesting perceived power dynamic on the show amongst the women, particularly because Amber works for Stormi and is also friends with Tiffany. So I am sure that there is probably the perception of Stormi and these $100 billion lives that she does. And I'm not being facetious when I say that, I'm just being real, right? These things are really happening. So I do wonder if in that moment it sounded like, and I could be wrong, but it sounded like perceived jealousy because I don't get, nor have I ever, okay? And I'm just going to tell you this as someone who has interviewed and also experienced the very, very thoughtful, giving, and just generous nature of who Stormy is. Okay. And knowing people who are also in proximity to her and understanding that my perspective is not the only one. Okay. So sometimes I think people have a perception that people are nice to me because I am someone who does interviews. I don't do a lot of interviews with people. Um, I will go into why in another video because that is a much longer story. And in order to do so, I need to figure out how to not implicate anybody that you all may know in this. And it's nobody that I think any of you would ever even guess that contributed to my experience. And I just thought to myself, I don't have to do this. Anyway, I digress. That's tea for another day. Okay, that's a story time. If y'all want that story time, chime down in the chat and I'll give you that story time. But be forewarned, I am not the type of person that is ever going to tell exactly who my experience was with, simply because I just don't like to do I just don't like to do that. But I could tell you my experience that brought me to that point. So if you guys want that story time, I'll either put it in the members area or I'll put it someplace where you guys can have access to it. Maybe on Substack. I don't really know. I'll do it though, if y'all want it. But if y'all don't want it, we'll keep it moving. But it's a really good story and it's really interesting. There's a lesson to be learned in it. But what I will say is this, just bringing it back full circle. I don't think that Stormy, in my opinion, is the type of person who wields her wealth as a weapon. I don't get that. So as I watched what's going on between Tiffany and Stormy, what I do get a sense of, and I felt this when I first interviewed Stormy, I could I think also because I feel like I'm a bit of an empath, and I also read energy well. I could tell during the initial part of our interview, I think she maybe was a little bit guarded because I don't know where she thought I was gonna go with my interviews. But after, I think, a little bit, I could see her just really beginning to relax because I believe that she is very much so about energy. Okay. This is my own experience. So I'm basing what I'm seeing on my actual lived experience experiencing Stormy, even through the screen, right? Because you can feel it. I've not had a bad interview where I felt like I did not enjoy the person or I didn't learn something from the person, right? And so thank God for that, right? Wait, let me think. Yeah, I don't think I have. I've had some things that happen unexpectedly during the interviews, but my point is this, is that my belief is that what you see with Stormy is actually what's really really happening. It's not played up for the television. These are her real thoughts. So when it is stated at the dinner that she's at later that she doesn't like to be in the middle of situations because she feels claustrophobic and she would prefer to be at the end. While I think for somebody like Tiffany or somebody that doesn't really know her that well, that could be perceived as a power play, I'm going to move my position because I don't like sitting in the middle, and it's my show and it's my party. I could see that being the perception, but just also I think given how I received that Stormy perceives energy, I just can believe that she just doesn't like sitting in those spaces. I believe that. I 100% believe that. So much of this episode centers around Stormy having a dinner for which she does invite Tiffany because she's hoping to maybe treat show Tiffany different than what she has been treated like herself by Tiffany. The goal there is to bring all the ladies together to really celebrate what is this collective, right? And to do so in a way that's inclusive of everybody. Tiffany seems happy at the opportunity to be able to go and smooth things out. And if you watch the beginning of the episode and never saw the previews, you would think that, okay, maybe this is going to turn out to be a good thing. Tiffany seems excited. Stormy seems ready to receive, apprehensive maybe, but still ready to receive and show love. But I'm sure pretty much still with the eye open, right? So Fumi is finally back in the episodes, and there is a certain lightness that has returned. There is something about Fumi's personality that is just super effervescent, and I think she is needed on reality TV, and she's definitely needed for this show. Because I think that she again has this energy that you really, and I'm so happy because I had not unlike many of you who were like, as soon as you saw Fumi, you were like, yes. I didn't know who she was, and that doesn't speak to like me. I mean, I'm not saying that because I didn't know who she was. She was. I mean, I just didn't know, and y'all know I don't always know, and I'll be very real with y'all when I don't know. And so when y'all tell me certain things, I'll be like, let me go and look this up, right? And so now I want to know more about her. I want to follow her journey. And let me say this: I tell y'all this all the time, and Fumi basically confirmed it. There are so many of you all who, and Fumi is a great example of this as they go and explore this new home. Now, whether or not they can actually afford this home, I really don't know. The home is like $2 million and it's basically a mansion. And the husband is like, girl, what? But the sister, the realtor, is like, yeah, I mean, let's show you the house. Let's swipe this card. I'm like, it's not that simple. But unless you got that, it depend on, I guess it depends on what kind of card you got. Okay, you got that black card. I don't know. I don't know, body. Right? Anyway, so diving further into it, when Fumi reveals that she has a six-figure income as a content creator, I feel like I tell y'all this all the time. I tell y'all this all the time. You think that it is only certain people who get lucky who are able to make content and make six figures. Now that doesn't mean that this person is maybe a multimillionaire. It doesn't mean that. because there's also things like taxes, there's things like investments, and again, I've made some bad investments over the course of time, but if I didn't, I wouldn't have learned what I've learned about myself and about this. And for a lot of us, we don't grow up with a silver spoon in our mouth where things are handed down to us and we're taught all these lessons. Especially as people of color, we sometimes, when we come into money for the first time like that, we don't really know what to do with it. And so we do end up going through the ups and the downs of the learning process. And so that happens. And I'm just going to be real about that. It happens, right? So I'm just saying, to speak a realistic perspective for you, that if you go all in on content, then it can potentially, if you are somebody who puts in the work, replace your full-time income and more and more. Fumi is the perfect example of what I have been trying to tell you guys and teach you guys. We're going to do another live masterclass, and it's for anybody who wants to do content. I'm going to throw in some faceless stuff in there as well, but it's for people who also want to build content and build a personal brand. Because even in my faceless content courses, I will meet people, and some of y'all need to be on camera, okay? And you just don't have clarity on what you should be doing. Fumi has found her lane. It's fashion, it's lifestyle. And so many of you guys could be doing the same thing. It's super easy. Some of y'all get dressed every day for work and you never record an outfit of the day. You never do. And you probably look good too. But you probably think, well, nobody would care. Who are these people going to think I am to do this? And I'm here to tell you that because I know and I've worked with people who have then ended up going to go, anybody that, let me say this, and I'm gonna be careful how I say it. I've given some amazing people some advice about getting on YouTube. Okay. And the people that have actually taken the advice and run with it, they're doing things. So y'all hop in the class, if nothing else. If nothing else, just invest in yourself, hop in the class. I cannot promise you results, but what I can promise you is I'm gonna give you all the keys that you need. Just like Fumi said in this episode. Okay? Link is in the description down below. But she's a perfect example of somebody who is just out there creating her content, living her best life, and it is taking her to New York Fashion Week. It's taking her all over the place. And who is to say that you can't be that next success story? But a lot of y'all just don't, for whatever reason, you just are afraid. And I don't know why. Because at the end of the day, if I told you right here there was a table with Fashion Week, you know, trips around the world, hotel stays, and a certain level of income on this table, and here's you right here, and the only thing that is stopping you from being from here and getting to here is your ability is a straight line that you could walk right over here. But some of y'all stay stuck in this little space over here because you are afraid of what's here. Other people's opinions, thoughts about your friends and your family. None of that stuff matters. I didn't even tell my friends and family about my YouTube channel when I first started. I didn't. I didn't. It was not for them. It was for us. Okay? So anyway, that's Fumi. She's back. The girls head over to, they're in a Sprinter headed to Stormi's house. And it's a good time to get out some things. And K'la and Tiffaney finally have a ponderosa about what was going on. K'la feels like she didn't really understand the mop situation and how deep it was for Tiffaney. And Tiffaney tells her it was perceived as, because I even saw you calling Stormi afterwards, that you were there to collect information, like you were being a minion. And Kayla's like, well, no, I called Stormi to ask, like, what more maybe that I missed that happened that made the situation so deep, and I felt ganged up on by you and your friend. Now, we also knew that K'la had also really known about that situation prior to, but she had not necessarily heard it directly from Stormi herself. She heard it in the car on the way to an event. So I'm gonna just leave it right there with K'la and Tiffaney for right now, because they are seemingly trying to start fresh. It is decided that Tiffaney will not say anything to Stormi about this mop at first, at least until they can just basically just have a good vibe with each other. The vibe does not last very long, the good vibes, because once the placing is set, and so I gotta ask, who set the place up? Who in Stormi's camp does not realize that she does not like to sit in the middle, and then proceeds to sit her in the middle beside Tiffaney? Hmm. Was that maybe a forgetful staff member? Was that perhaps maybe production? I don't know. I don't know, right? If I'm a producer, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I might have placed it right there. Oh, I don't. Does Stormy not like to sit in the middle? Or, or listen, a very thoughtful producer could be like, let's sit them beside each other and see how that works. Will that either create more tension or that produces an opportunity for them to bond? That could be the test. We don't know. All we know is that Stormy says, nope, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna put my plate right here. I don't know who did that, but I don't like to sit, on I like to sit on the periphery. Don't put me. And so I think back to Love and Marriage Huntsville. I'm like, damn, I wonder if they put her in the middle a lot. I gotta go back and watch those episodes now. Anyway, it was just a thought. So, did anybody else think that? Um, as I'm watching the rest of this, like it just blows up because Tiffaney then starts laughing because she, I believe, internalizes that as this girl don't want to sit beside me. And she's just chuckling and Stormy asks her, well, what's funny? What's going on? And she's like, Tiffany's like, well, just you moving and whatnot. And Stormy's like, I'm claustrophobic. I like to sit on the ends. I don't like to sit in the middle, nothing like that. And Tiffany definitely takes it as you brought me here to pretty much embarrass and shade me. I can understand that thought, but later on, Tiffany will try to position it very differently as though she were already I don't know what she says, but the camera basically shows Tiffany laughed after Stormy said what she said and moved. So she's still laughing. She's chuckling to herself, likely as a defense mechanism to throw the situation off and almost prove that it does not affect her. That is my thought. Okay. And or just the amusement that Stormy would go so far to be away from her while also inviting her to her own home, which again, they don't know each other. So I can understand there being a level of suspicion there. But when the ladies are telling her inside, hey, you keep doing the same things, you keep laughing at situations that you say are funny, but you're also at the same time apologetic for your action, but you continue to double down that what you're saying and doing is funny. Now, I would not have a problem if you just said, I thought it was funny and I'm not apologizing. That would seem a bit more, excuse me, abrasive, but direct. Okay? Like, let's just be, but it does come across as the ladies tell her passive aggressive. Amber tells you it's a bit passive aggressive. K'la tells you, girl, it ain't funny. And I'm the queen of knowing what's not funny because K'la knows, right? She was there with Kylan and that whole situation with the lines. So she know. Fumi tries to tell her. I'm sure that for Tiffany, it probably looks as though all of the ladies are acquiescing to Stormy and her wealth and power on the show. And so she's on the defensive because I think she feels like she has no one there in her corner. And she very much does a good job of holding her own in Stormy's home as Stormy is telling her to leave. There was the moment between the two of them where Stormy's like, do you want to go? And she's like, I can. And Stormy's like, oh, well, okay, then we'll go. Okay. And so, and she's like, that little back and forth, that was actually funny. But the girl can't leave. And again, this is to me, when you want, if you make an exit, girl, go outside. Do not stay on this woman's. I would be waiting at the edge of the property if it were I. Okay. I would not still be in her home waiting for my car. I would be outside. When you want to make an exit, and I know I can probably say this because as a man, I think differently. And I know this. So I'm readily going to admit this is probably me thinking as a man, right? I know that from my own personal experience, um a lot of my lady friends are a lot more cautious about their environments. And so standing outside of someone's property in that could be out in the wild may not be the best. But I am here to tell you that my ego, when I'm making a dramatic exit, would cause me to be at the edge of the property waiting for my car despite the danger of it all. Okay? Because if you tell me to get out of your house, I'm getting the F out of your house now. You will never see me again. Okay? You will never see me on your property again. Even if we make up and you have an event, I'm not coming to your house. How about that? But I still feel like Tiffaney is in the wrong in this situation. And when she does get in the car, she talks to her husband, and and you could tell that they've had this conversation before about Stormi and all of this wealth that she has, and it's all about the money. And it's like, girl, I don't. The money has not come up yet. This is about you thinking stuff is funny that to you is funny. It's funny. I would rather you admit that you think it's funny, but then don't apologize for it at the same time. That's basically where I'm at with it. So anyway, next week is the season finale. So we'll see how this turns out. They're gonna try it all over again. Another Ponderosa. And we'll see how that goes. With that being said, y'all let me know what y'all thought about the episode. And I will, of course, catch you in the next video. Or I will see you on next Thursday for our live class. Tap in, click the link in the description or in the pinned comment. I want to see you there. I want to be able to help you hopefully get from point A to point D, Z, and above. Whatever comes after Z, we don't know. All right. I want to help you. All right. With that being said, I'll see you guys later.